And with that, I'm going to kick us off with some introduction. So again, good evening, everyone. My name is Kia Dodd. I am the program coordinator for the Georgia College Advising Corps. I began working for this organization in September of 2018. So been in this role now for just over 2 years. My position is based in the Atlanta area, and so I work very closely with our college advisors who serve in the Atlanta public school system. And some of my primary responsibility, in addition to supporting our Atlanta area advisors, include supporting the recruitment, logistical, and training needs of our program. With that, I'm going to pass it over briefly to our program director, Brooke, so that she can introduce herself to you as well.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. I love that y'all are thinking ahead about what you want to do after this school year. So I really appreciate you taking the time to learn about this organization, and I hope you consider it as a potential opportunity for you for after you graduate. So yes, my name is Brooke Thompson, and I actually started this job recently. I started in July. So I'm still fairly new to the organization, but I feel really passionate about the work that the advisors do. If you have a heart for service and if you really want to serve your community, this is a great opportunity to do so. So I am in here with Kia to be a support system for the advisors. I also do the fundraising for the organization and the training and whatever is needed to keep the organization running. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here with you today. My name is Thomas Smith, and I'm serving as an advisor in my third year. It's my first year with the Georgia College Advising Corps. I work in the Atlanta Public Schools District at Benjamin Elijah Mays High School. So it's good to be here with you, and I'm glad to take this time with you all.
Thank you, Brooke and Thomas. I also want to highlight another current advisor who is with us today. We're going to try to see if we can get the technology working so that she can be able to see you all and show her face. But for the time being, I want to take a moment to recognize Jess Colley, who is a second-year advisor with our organization. Jess also serves in the Atlanta public school system at North Atlanta High School, and she has really, really amazing insights to provide as an advisor. And actually, I think she is coming on now. So if you all bear with us and show us a little grace. Here she is, Jess. Would you like to say a few words?
Oh. Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Jess. All right. So with that, we will go ahead and get started with our presentation. Just want to take a moment to point out right here on the screen, you'll see this is a group of, this is last year's cohort of college advisors. So this is our team from the 2019-2020 school year. We love, love, love group photos at GCAC. So the pandemic has definitely been rough in that respect. We haven't had an opportunity to take a group photo so far this year, but this is actually, last year we had an opportunity to take a group photo at the administration building at the University of Georgia. And we had a chance to also get a photo with President Moorhead, which was pretty nice as well. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off. So who we are, the Georgia College Advising Corps is affiliated with a few different organizations, as you can see here. The first is the National College Advising Corps. So the National College Advising Corps is a national nonprofit college access organization. And so they are sort of our mother program, if you will. The College Advising Corps organization is housed at universities across the country. So the Georgia College Advising Corps is one of those 30 programs. The Georgia College Advising Corps is also affiliated with the University of Georgia, of course. And so at UGA, we are housed within the Institute of Higher Education. So for those of you who may not be familiar with that, we are located in Meigs Hall, which is on North Campus. And then the third organization that the Georgia College Advising Corps is affiliated with is AmeriCorps. And so sometimes people are not always familiar with AmeriCorps, so you can sort of think of it as being essentially like the domestic version of the Peace Corps. Georgia College Advising Corps, college advisors, because of our affiliation with AmeriCorps, are considered AmeriCorps service members. And so that is something that comes with a number of benefits, which we will talk about a little further in this presentation. So up next, just briefly want to talk about our program history. Essentially, the Georgia College Advising Corps was established in 2009. And so if you look closely where the numbers 2009 are, you'll see some people's faces back there. Those are actually the first 4 original college advisors, who were there along for the ride whenever this program was initiated. And so they are all doing really amazing things now in their time post-Corps. And we'll talk about life after the Corps a little bit as we get further. And then 2020, if you look here, this is our team of college advisors now. And so we went from just 4 advisors in 2009, and now in 2020, we have a team of 23. So we have grown over the years, and we hope to continue to do so to continue our reach and our mark on students' lives. So let's talk about where we serve. Some of you, if you have taken time to peruse our website or look us up on social media, might be familiar with some of this information. But if you look on the left, there is our current service map. And then on the right, just list out all of our partner high schools for the current 2020-2021 academic year. So if you look to the map, you'll see that our program, of course, is spread out. We have a pretty heavy concentration of college advisors in Atlanta. We have 13 college advisors who serve within Atlanta Public Schools. In Norcross, in Gwinnett County, we have 1 advisor at a high school there. We have 2 college advisors who serve in the Athens, Clark County area. We have 2 advisors who serve in Henry County, which is a little south of Atlanta. We have 3 advisors in Conyers, 1 advisor who serves in Social Circle. And then if you look way down at the bottom, this is one of our new school partnerships. So we have 1 advisor who serves, and this is actually Grady County, Georgia, and the high school is Cairo High School. So you can kind of get a sense of where we serve and, just kind of the different areas and populations of students that we are able to extend our services to. I also want to point out, I should have mentioned this earlier, there is a Q&A feature. And so you all should be able to see that along the bottom of your screens. If you have questions at any point, please do not hesitate to drop that question in that Q&A box. We are going to save some time for the end to address all questions. But if, as I'm kind of going through and you hear something that makes you think of something or something you're curious about, please feel free to go ahead and drop your questions in that box at any time. And I will be happy to answer those questions, and my team who's here supporting me will be happy to do the same. Also, for those of you who have any questions about what it is like specifically to be a college advisor, Thomas and Jess, who are on hand, will be more than happy to talk to you about that. And they are top-notch advisors and can really give you some really awesome insights. So want to make that announcement before I move on. So our mission, again, for those of you who have maybe done a little bit of research into our organization, this will be quite familiar to you already. Our mission is to increase the number of low-income, first-generation, and underrepresented students who attend and complete higher education. And so it is our goal to not just get students to go to college, but ideally we want to see them finish and complete their degrees. And so we transform lives by leading students to college. So I'm going to take a few moments now to talk a little bit about the need. We talk a lot about, we throw the term college access out quite a bit in this line of work. And so I'm going to take some time to talk about what we mean when we talk about college access and why college access work is so important. So as all of you are aware, a college degree is essential to economic security. I believe the vast majority of you who are participating right now are currently enrolled in college and approaching, the end of your senior year. And so, of course, you have elected to pursue your education in part to secure your economic future moving forward. So as you can see here, in 2020, 65% of all jobs will require post-secondary education. And so as the need for a post-secondary degree increases, our work becomes that much more essential. We also know, however, that in spite of the fact that having a post-secondary level of education is so important, many students just do not have the support that they need to chart the path to college. And so to kind of provide some statistics on that, in 2014, the student to counselor ratio in the state of Georgia was 490 to 1. But as you can see beneath that, the American School Counselor Association recommends a ratio of 250 to 1. And so in the state of Georgia, that ratio was nearly double the recommended amount. And so you have a high number of students who want to go to college and who also need support in making that goal a reality, but unfortunately lack the one-on-one and individual support that they need to make that happen. And so that is largely where we come in. So here you can see that the challenges for students from low income, first generation, and underrepresented families are far greater. And that certainly isn't news to anyone. But if you look here, just 14% of students from the lowest socioeconomic quartile graduate from college. And so these are folks, as we know, education really is one of the greatest social equalizers there is. But unfortunately, for the population of students who need to pursue post-secondary education, these numbers are low, and it is largely due to unique barriers that they face. And so that is why our mission is so important and why we work so hard to do the work we do. All right, so let's talk a bit about our near peer model and what that means really. So we recruit outstanding service-minded graduates to work for 2 years in high schools across the state of Georgia, and we provide them with intensive training and ongoing support. We'll talk about our training a little bit more as we move forward. And bear with me here. I see that I have something in the chat, and I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything important from any of you.
I answered the question about getting the presentation later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke.
You're welcome.
So we operate using what we call a near peer mentor model. And so this basically means that ideally, we find that when we recruit college advisors who reflect the student populations they serve, that is really, really, really powerful. Generally, college advisors at the time that they begin service are no more than 6 years removed from high school. And so generally, college advisors are relatively close in age to the students they serve. And oftentimes our college advisors come from very similar backgrounds to the students they serve. And that is really impactful because the students they work with can see themselves in their college advisors. And so as they are facing challenges and struggles, they can look at their college advisor and say, hey, this person is very similar to me. This person looks like me. This person attended a high school like mine, came from, a community like the one that I am in, and they were able to graduate and earn their degree. I can do that as well. So to break it down a little bit more as I talk a bit about the near-peer mentor model that our program follows. So our team of college advisors, these statistics actually represent last year's team, so the 2019-2020 cohort. Of that group of college advisors, 52% of them were first-generation college graduates. 83% of them were Pell Grant recipients, and 74% of them were people of color. And then I talked about, students and the impact that college advisors are able to have on students, largely in part due to the near-peer model that we use. If you look here, for those of you who are into data and numbers and graphs and all of that, students who met with a GCAC college advisor, and this data is specifically from last year, were 23% more likely to visit a college, 37% more likely to apply for a scholarship, 32% more likely to submit the FAFSA, 40% more likely to apply to college, and 20% more likely to be accepted to college. And so I am going to talk about the service experience next. And if you look here, I mentioned before, we love taking group photos at the Georgia College Advising Corps. So these were photos that we took last fall as a part of our gratitude campaign. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the service experience looks like and what that would mean for one of you if you were to serve with us as a college advisor. So some of the primary responsibilities that our college advisors have are creating a college-going culture at their school. And this really is critical to the success that they'll have in their roles. Without a strong college-going culture, the rest of the work really doesn't fall into place. College advisors also help students make informed post-secondary plans. So that could include helping them build a balanced college list, or even for students who elect not to go to college, because even though we are a college access organization, we recognize that college may not be in the cards or may not be the desired next step for every student, which is fine. So we also work with students to figure out if they want to go to the workforce next, or if they want to pursue the military. Whatever that post-secondary plan looks like, college advisors help their students piece that together. They also help students apply and pay for college. And then track and analyze data. This is a huge, huge component of the work we do. So we have core values that are part of our organization. And one of those core values is that we are data-driven. And so advisors, as they are working with students, as they are helping students apply to college or complete the FAFSA, they track that information. And we have a system called GRACE that we use to track information. And that allows us to not only track our data, but to analyze it. So they're constantly recording interactions, measuring progress, and then using that to develop strategies to meet goals. So everyday life in the Corps. I mentioned some of these things previously, but I'll just run through them again briefly. College advisors will help students register for standardized entrance examinations such as the SAT and ACT, help students find schools that are going to be the best option for them. And so match and fit is a concept that we talk about a lot, helping students find schools that are going to align with their academic credentials, but that will also meet their social and personal needs and financial needs as well. College advisors assist with finding and applying to scholarships, aiding with college applications, assisting families with the financial aid process, editing and planning with essays. And they also, primarily college advisors will work with the seniors at their schools, but they also are able to extend some outreach efforts, primarily in the spring, to juniors as well, to kind of give them that boost that they need so that when the juniors become seniors, they are already thinking about college.
Kia, could we address a question in the chat real quick?
Absolutely. I'm having a hard time seeing them, so feel free.
Okay. All right. So Eric asked, applicants more than 6 years older than high school graduating are not accepted into the program. That's a question.
Yeah, and did you say Eric?
Yes.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for that question. So that is definitely something that we can explore and talk about on a case-by-case basis. The answer is definitely not no. We would just need to have a conversation there. But thank you for asking that question. And if you want to set up some time to talk one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do that. What else have I missed, Brooke?
That is it. Deandra says that he's already won over.
Oh, that makes me happy. Awesome. Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you all for your questions. And thank you, Brooke, for leaning in there, because you know how it is when you're sharing your screen.
It's challenging.
It is tricky. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what the schedule looks like. So college advisors start off with an 11-month commitment. And so they have the option of serving with us for a second year of service. I will say that with the pandemic going on, the rules have changed a little bit. And so advisors this year were given the option to serve for a third year. But typically it's what they call a 1+1 model. So you start out in your first year, you would sign an 11-month contract. And so the way that works is you begin your service in the month of July. And in the month of July, we have a pretty intensive month-long training that we do to really gear the advisors up for the service that they're going to do in their schools. They actually start working at their school in August, and then at the conclusion of the school year in May, that would be the end of that first contract. If an advisor wanted to come back and serve a second year, then that process would start again in terms of the contract. College advisors work full-time in a high school, and they follow that school's schedule.
Here, we have a quick question.
Okay.
Asking, are you able to move up in the organization after your second year?
Yeah. Who's that question from, Thomas?
This is from Deandra Burgess. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. So I'm not entirely sure so I'm assuming you mean move up within, do you mean within the Georgia College Advising Corps or with the College Advising Corps as a whole? If you could, are you able to provide a little more clarity there?
I believe she said yes in reference to the organization of CAC and then GCAC.
Okay, yeah, great question. So as far as GCAC goes, our team right now is quite small. We do have options for graduate assistantships that come up, and that just kind of depends on the circumstances. In terms of working within the National College Advising Corps, that is a large organization with a number of openings available all the time. In fact, it's actually quite common for, I've seen a number of staff members within the National College Advising Corps office who had been former advisors themselves. So that's not uncommon at all. Great question. I think I might've seen something else pop up. Are there any other questions?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Virginia. Virginia Smith asks, if you stick around for a second year with the program, can you stay at the same school?
Yes, thank you for that question, Virginia. Yes, and so that's typically how it works. More often than not, advisors do remain at the school where they began, and that's beneficial in a number of ways. And we absolutely love for advisors to stay and come back for a second year, because in your first year, you're really kind of getting your feet wet and, kind of getting into the swing of things and learning all of the nuances of how to be a college advisor. And then when you come back for that second year, you have, that foundational knowledge, and you're really able to hit the ground running from there. And so when you come back to the same school, where you already served, you know the lay of the land, you know the administration, the teachers, you know the counselors. You probably at that point have gotten an opportunity maybe to interact with some of the juniors who will now be seniors, and so you'll be working with them. So yes, the answer to that question is yes. Anything else that I've missed? All good? Okay. All right, so what are the qualifications to serve as a college advisor within the Georgia College Advising Corps? The first qualification is a bachelor's degree. You do have to have earned your undergraduate degree in order to begin serving with us. And then outside of that, some of the things that are really, really important are problem-solving skills, communication skills, organizational skills, and interpersonal skills. One question that I get pretty often is people asking, you know, well, what does your bachelor's degree need to be in? And the truth is it could be in anything. There really is not a one size fits all, you know, mold for what a college advisor looks like, or, you know, what a college advisor's background should be. So we have had college advisors with degrees in sports marketing, business. My first year with the program, we had an advisor whose undergraduate degree was in industrial engineering. We get a lot of education majors naturally. There's a pretty broad range of backgrounds that our advisors come into the program with, and we welcome that. We love diversity. You know, we're not looking for you all to be carbon copies of one another. We like people who come from different backgrounds and who have different perspectives. So essentially, these are the things we're looking for. I would say outside of that, some of the things that I see that lead to success as a college advisor are possessing a growth mindset and knowing how to really just be flexible because working in schools definitely requires that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about benefits at this point. As you'll see here, there are some numbers laid out. So you'll see a living allowance, you'll see an AmeriCorps education award, and then you'll see some health, dental, and vision insurance figures. I want to just make it really clear that the amounts you're looking at reflect the rates for this current year. So for the current 2020-2021 academic year, these rates are subject to change for the upcoming 2021-2022 academic year. And most likely, generally, we see a trend of these rates increasing slightly each year. That information has not been finalized yet. And for that reason, we have kept the current rate. So I want to make that clear. But yes, as a college advisor, you will earn a living allowance. It's a living allowance rather than a salary. Essentially, it's the exact same thing. You know, it's your paycheck. You'll receive it at the end of the month. But as a service member, it is deemed a living allowance. The next figure you see there is an AmeriCorps Education Award. So at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about our program's affiliation with AmeriCorps, and I talked about the benefits that come along with being an AmeriCorps service member. And so one of the primary benefits is this education award. This education award can be earned, college advisors can earn this education award if they complete 1,700 hours of service within, you know, that first year that they're working with us. And then if a college advisor comes back to serve for a second year, if they complete 1,700 hours within that time span, they're eligible to earn that award again. This award is really nice because it can be applied to existing student loan debt that you may have. Now, there is certain criteria that has to be met. You do have to have taken out a certain type of loan, and that's something that if you have questions about on a one-on-one basis, I'd be happy to answer, you know, if you want to set up a time to talk. But you can use that money to pay back existing student loan debt. You can also use that money if you want to pursue some form of education after your time of service. So we have a lot of college advisors who have a strong interest in going to grad school after they serve with us. And so this money, oftentimes they will use to contribute to their graduate school education. And again, for advisors who serve 2 years with us, they are eligible to earn this award twice, if they fulfill that 1,700 hour requirement I mentioned before. And then lastly, there are health, dental, and vision benefits that you would be eligible for as a college advisor. And the nice thing about these benefits is that we actually pay the premium. So you all do not have to pay, for the cost of this insurance out of pocket outside of, whatever your copay would be if you were to go to the doctor. I think I see that a question came in. Would one of you, do one of you mind sharing that so I can answer it?
Yeah, we were just getting ready to respond back to it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just my phone going in and out. I missed the part on the living allowance, so I think we just want some feedback surrounding what the living allowance actually is or what it's for.
Yeah. So the living allowance essentially is your salary, and so that's the annual number that would be broken down. Advisors get paid each month, so that would just be broken down on a monthly basis. I believe advisors receive their paychecks the final business day of the month. Any other questions? Okay. Beyond that, and I mentioned this before, so as far as professional development is concerned, now we're down at the bottom, we are really, really, really passionate about professional development. It's really important that we pour into our advisors. We want them to be, sorry, looking at the chat here. So that is a good question. Thank you for asking that, Logan. I'm going to save that one for the end, but I will make a note that I need to come back to that one. Thank you for asking that. So pre-service training is one of the ways that we ensure that our college advisors have the skills and the resources that they need to be able to go into their schools and do their jobs successfully. Pre-service training, again, takes place during the majority of the month of July. And the way that looks pre-COVID, and then hopefully we can go back to that post-COVID whenever that is. But the way that our pre-service training normally looks is that it takes place on the campus of the University of Georgia. And so it takes place for the majority of the month of July. And so what our program does is we actually set up our college advisors in on-campus housing. So we try to set advisors up in the nicest dorms that we're able to snag. And so we provide housing. We also provide advisors with meal plans. So for that entire month, the expenses are covered. We cover your housing, we cover your food, and we basically set it up so that your focus for that month is on learning the fundamentals of college access, learning the fundamentals of college advising, understanding your schools and your districts and all the ins and outs of how this all really works. That takes place in July, and then at the conclusion of training, advisors start working in their schools in August. This past summer, as a result of COVID, our pre-service training took place virtually. And so things are really sort of up in the air in terms of what that's going to look like for this upcoming year. But that's what it normally looks like. And then, like I said, in the midst of the pandemic, we did everything virtually this year. And then we also provide ongoing support with respect to professional development. So we have in-service trainings. In normal times, in-service training takes place roughly, I think maybe 8 times a year, and it takes place on campus. We all come together as a core, and we, spend usually 2 days together, and we, we'll present training on various topics depending on what's going on at that year. There is also a national summit that the National College Advising Corps organization hosts and puts on. And so that is basically an opportunity for college advisors across the country, for college advisors, at College Advising Corps programs all across the nation to come together for this big conference. That is also, the expenses for that are covered as well. So in my first year with the program, we went to New York City for that big conference. Last year we went to Boston. This year, of course, the conference has been canceled, but I understand for 2021, it will be in California. I believe it is San Diego, if I'm remembering correctly. And then in addition to that, we also provide on-the-job skills development and networking. So in particular for advisors who are in their second year, and so they are getting ready to conclude their time with the program, we spend a lot of our time and effort really working with them to ensure that they have the tools that they need to move on to their next steps. So for advisors who want to pursue graduate school after serving with us, we will work with them to write letters of recommendation or help review personal statements, really kind of guide them along their application journey if graduate school is what they want to do next. For those of them who have an interest in going into the workforce after their time of service, we will work with them to provide resume resources. We recently did I know that was a personal statement workshop that we did, but we are actually getting ready to have a resume building workshop in a couple of weeks. So we really, again, try to pour into our advisors and make sure we want them to be successful during their time of service, but we also want them to be successful after they move on to their next steps. And speaking of next steps, after service with GCAC, we find that roughly 23% of college advisors will go into the workforce after they have completed their service, and then 77% of them will pursue a graduate degree. And so we have had advisors after they have served with us go to Harvard, the University of Pennsylvania, Florida State, the University of Georgia, Columbia. A whole very long list of institutions that aren't listed here. And so we find that many of them will pursue higher education or student affairs, teaching. We have advisors who go on to medical school or to pursue counseling, social work, public affairs, law school, you name it. All right. So that brings us to the end. I want to circle back to the question in the chat here from Logan. So Logan asked, are individuals allowed to pursue external work in addition to being college advisors? Would it be on a case-by-case basis due to potential conflicts of interest? So we have basically serving as a college advisor is it's a pretty big undertaking. It's a large responsibility, and it isn't like your typical 9-to-5 job. College advisors oftentimes will have, school events during the week that oftentimes take place in the evenings, or I mentioned before, we'll have in-service training on campus, at least during normal times. So they may need to travel for training or for a conference. And so for that reason, we have found that it just does not work when college advisors are trying to serve with our program and then also pursue other forms of employment. So that is not something that we allow. We just have found that it does not work, and it creates a lot of challenges, and ultimately it has a negative impact on the students who the advisors are serving. I think I see some other questions coming in here. Okay, so what does the school placement process look like? That's an excellent question as well. The school placement process is one that we give a lot of time and consideration into. We think long and hard about where we are going to place advisors. And so I can talk a little bit about our interview process and then kind of lead up to the placement process from there. Our interview process takes place in two parts. We have our first round interview, which is essentially just kind of your standard interview. It's between, the candidate, and then the members of the administrative team will be a part of that. For candidates who progress past the first round of the interview, we then have a group interview for all of our finalists. And as a part of that group interview process, there is a survey that we provide all of our finalists where they're able to basically rank their school placement preferences. So by that point, we would know, where our openings will be for the upcoming school year. We would provide a list of schools to the candidates, and then from there you would do research on those schools and kind of figure out, which schools you think might be the best fit for you. And then you have an opportunity to rank your placement preferences. We do take these placement preferences into consideration, but ultimately final placement decisions are at the discretion of the administrative team on this program. And so we consider the candidate's placement preference, but we also consider the needs of the school. All of our schools are very, very different. They all need sort of a different touch. And so we think about, where we think an advisor, would be the best fit. We also have some schools where there is more than one advisor. So for example, in Atlanta, all but three of our schools there have more than one advisor serving. So we also think about the dynamics between advisors who are going to be placed at the same school. So there's a lot of factors that go into that process. What I will say to kind of round out that answer is, whatever our final decision is, we will not just thrust it upon you. There are some organizations who you apply and then basically they say, congratulations, here's where you're going to be going. We will let you know, we'll send you an offer and we'll let you know, where we would like to place you. You have the ability to accept that offer, or if you, don't think that school is going to be a good fit or it isn't where you want to go, you have the option to decline. But like I said, in the end, placement decisions are going to be eventually or ultimately at the discretion of our leadership team. So how do you decide to place core members to serve service areas you consider family? Yeah, so that's similar to the previous question. We do take other factors into consideration. We try to consider things like location. There's a lot of factors that go into our placement decisions, but in the end, we are going to place advisors based on where we think the students' needs will be best met. Let's see, how many students do you choose to hire per school term? When is it good to apply? Okay, so in terms of how many students we hire to serve as college advisors, it just depends on the number of openings we have. And so that varies, and we get a clearer sense of that as we move into the spring semester. We'll have a better sense of what schools will have openings and what schools we won't need to, fill any spaces. So in terms of when is good to apply, our application is actually open now for the upcoming 2021-2022 school year. As soon as I finish answering these questions, I will drop the application link. I'll drop the application link. So yeah, you can go ahead and apply as soon as today, and we welcome that. We love early applications. We basically will spend the remainder of this semester reviewing applications, and then as we move into the spring, that is when we'll start lining up interviews. Okay, so that's a similar question, Eric. Yes, we do take into consideration location, but we will make the final decision based on the needs of the schools. How competitive is the application process? How many applications do you typically receive versus how many advisors do you place? That's a really good question. So competitive can be thought of in different ways. I guess ultimately it really comes down to the number of openings we have. Last year in particular, I want to say that we had maybe between 75 and 80 applications. But you have to remember, we have 23 college advisors. And so, you can kind of do the math there. It really just comes down to the number of openings we have. And that varies by year. I'm sorry, I can't give you something a little more specific there. And then can you apply if you are in graduate school? So this is very similar to the question about having a job while serving. And so we do have the same policy when it comes to being enrolled in graduate school. We do ask that advisors, if they serve with our organization, make that their primary focus. And so we once, very similarly to advisors who try to take on other jobs while doing this role, we find that it just does not work. These jobs are really demanding, and we want advisors to give this their undivided attention. I say this, and it might sound a little cheesy or cliche, but we really truly are entrusting college advisors with the lives and the futures of students, of kids, children, because these are minors, and we want to ensure that they are fully engaged in the work that they're doing. So no, we are not able to have advisors serve with us while also enrolled in a graduate program. But as I mentioned previously, we do offer, an Ed Award opportunity if you're able to serve, meet that 1,700-hour requirement. And so for folks who are interested in grad school, sometimes it's beneficial to serve that year and wait. And then when you have your Ed Award, you can apply that to your educational expenses. I think. We have some questions for current advisors. So Jess and Thomas, can you walk them through your typical day environment in your schools, and how do you manage your stipend and living needs? Great questions.
I can start. So one of the things I like about this job is that there really isn't like a typical day. Every day is pretty different depending on the time of the year and your school. So I would say my day typically consists of meeting with students and parents one-on-one, just providing them with any type of individualized support that they need with their applications. We do work with members of our school faculty a lot. So we'll meet with guidance counselors, teachers, other administrators to kind of plan events. We do, Kia mentioned that we track a lot of data. So a good portion of my day is tracking the data from college applications, the one-on-one interactions we have with students. But like I said, it really depends on the time of the year. So right now, my days are pretty much filled with meeting with students, going over their applications, helping them with FAFSA, reading their essays. And then I think there was another part to the question. I don't remember.
Yes, managing your living stipend. I'm gonna pull it up here.
Oh, that's a really good question. It definitely, for me personally, I did have to kind of sit down and really plan out a budget to be able to manage living stipend. Where I live, which is just personal preference, like my rent is a little bit higher. So just budgeting is really important. But I do think it's more manageable than it seems. As long as you're budgeting and kind of prioritizing your needs, I think it's relatively manageable.
I basically echo everything that Jess said. I think the main theme about as far as what your day looks like, it's going to be active, whether it's the time of year, whether we're working on FAFSAs or college applications or having meetings with different stakeholders. The main thing is, as an advisor, you wear a lot of different hats as far as college access in the school. So you could have a multitude of things. Your days generally go from about whenever school starts. Some folks stay a little bit later after school to continue on some work, but once school is released, technically you are released as well too. It just depends on what you need to get ahead a little bit. And it's just budgeting. It is a little bit of an adjustment to kind of, be paid one time a month, but you can do it. It's also just built around like what your financial situation is too. So just really being mindful of that.
We also have a question for you too. If you are placed in a school in Atlanta or in the Stockbridge area, what does living look like? And this individual's phone broke up when you all were talking about just what the living situation is like.
I feel like that's a case by case basis. I'm not too familiar with Stockbridge. I am familiar with Atlanta. Um, you know how Atlanta is right now. I think in some areas, like you'll find more. It's certainly not New York or it's not DC, but you know the housing market is trying to kind of going up a little bit. So I would just say that it's important to kind of be frugal and like if you're looking for housing opportunities and you have this information now, I would definitely be looking sooner rather than later as far as leases to see what these different leasing offices or if you're going to go with a house, like just be looking earlier to kind of accommodate where you'll be living.
All right. Anything to add there before I go on to the next one, Jess? Okay. All right. So someone asked, I am not sure, but with the way the world currently is, would you all require your advisors to go into school every day? How have/would you all handle the pandemic? That's a really good question. Right now, our advisors are primarily working, they're advising virtually. Many of our schools have not fully opened yet. And so we have just had to be flexible with that and modify the way that we do our work. So everything that we've done so far this year has been virtual, even the things that we do as a program. Like I said, in previous years, when we have our in-service trainings, those take place on campus here at the University of Georgia. Right now, all of our team training is being done virtually. So right now we're kind of working the same way that everyone has been forced to due to the pandemic. Are there any additional questions? I think I've caught all the ones in the Q&A box, but do want to give, here's got some more coming in here. Oh, here's another question for you, Thomas and Jess. Do you two feel incorporated into your schools? Do you get to serve in any extra roles like coaching or sponsoring clubs?
I can answer. I definitely feel really incorporated into my school. I mean, you do kind of have a choice as to how really involved you want to be. I do feel very welcomed in my school. This is my second year, so I kind of established myself and my role early on last fall. I do feel really incorporated. It does take a lot of work, though, especially with teachers and other staff. A lot of the times you are going to be the one reaching out to staff members. They are happy to chat with you and help you, but you do kind of need to be the first person to do that. And then the second question, personally, I don't do any type of coaching or anything like that at my school, but I have stayed after school with certain clubs to work on college stuff. So you can partner with organizations at the school to kind of do workshops or anything like that. I have done a couple volunteer things with my school, but in terms of having another role at that school, I really value my personal life, so I wouldn't want to take another role at my school.
Yeah, that's pretty true on our end too. I feel very incorporated. It is a little bit of a school culture sort of deal as well too, on how ingrained you kind of feel in like a family because some folks do more to make sure that you're incorporated, and we hope that that's the situation for you all when you become advisors. As far as how to manage, you know, other responsibilities, like if you want to coach or volunteer, just making sure that you have the space in your own, like Jess said, you do have a personal life and this does require a lot. So you want to make sure that you're giving your time to something that, you know, both allows you to rest but also be engaged with the students. It is a good opportunity to kind of be more ingrained in your community, but you know, it is work as well.
And we've got, we'll leave time for just one more question here since we are coming up on our time together, the end of our time together. And so this again is for you, Thomas and Jess. What advice would you give us that are preparing to graduate, both for this particular job, or, oh, I guess that's not just an advisor specific question. Yeah, both for this particular job and just applying for jobs in general. Brooke, is there anything you want to add to that one while we got you here?
Sure. So some advice I would give for new college graduates is, having somebody else look over your resume and cover letter before sending it in, since this is going to be like a new thing for you. Utilizing the career center at your university, definitely. Like, I really wish I had utilized that more when I was in school. And they're great folks that can help you figure out how to really articulate your skills and what you can bring to a job. And any employer that's going to hire you right out of college knows that you're not going to, you're a new worker and you're going to have to learn a lot of things. And so I think really coming into your first career with a desire and an openness to learn, and expressing that in your interview, that that you want to learn and you want to improve, that goes a long way with employers.
Thank you so much, Brooke. And I see just one more here from Logan asking, is there potential to continue in that line of work with the school? So as far as, through our contract, and if an advisor is at the end of their service through our organization, then that is the end there. But if they wanted to continue working at that school in another capacity, and if the school had an opening, that is definitely a possibility. In fact, one of our advisors who served in Athens, Clark County last year, managed to get a position with the school where she had served as a college advisor following her service with the program. So with that, I do want to honor everybody's time. I want to just thank everyone again for coming out, for the really, really insightful questions that you all asked, and just for the level of engagement that you provided to us, even though we didn't have the luxury of being able to engage with you all on a in-person basis. As I mentioned previously, I'm going to stop sharing because I want to drop something in the chat. I want to take a moment to drop the application link for you all. I will also be following up with everyone via email, so I'll provide this information that way as well. So for those of you who are feeling ready to go ahead and apply, I encourage you to do so. We love, love, love early applications. We love to go ahead and review those and start, looking through and assessing our candidate pool. So I'll provide an email that will include the application link. For those of you who would like a copy of this presentation, I'll provide that via email as well. If you all have any additional questions after this, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to Brooke. I'll also provide Jess and Thomas's contact if you'd like to connect with an advisor for any of those questions. So thank you all for your participation and for being here. And I hope everyone has a great evening. And thank you again to Brooke, Thomas, and Jess for being on hand to support as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
You all have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.